Hello and welcome. I'm Tim and this is SV Paquita. And Rick and I, there's Rick. Say hi, Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Rick and I are en route taking Paquita from Watch Hill down to Deltaville, Virginia. And this is our third day, right? Yeah, we left on Friday, Saturday, today, Sunday. Our third day. We have, how many miles we have, Rick?
84 miles.
84 miles to go. This is noon on Sunday. 84 miles to go. And what are we doing for speed, Rick?
6 knots.
Doing about 6 knots on really, really pleasant beam reach here. What do we got for wind? About down in the corner, 15 true, 10 true.
9 true.
9 true, and we're doing 6 knots. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty good. Anyway. We had an interesting time taking off. We've been following the weather, and if you watch some of the other videos, you'll know that the whole trip has been held up while we were waiting for an exhaust elbow to get fabricated and shipped in from Florida. And we really had hoped to leave on Wednesday. Now, obviously, we can't spend our lives worrying about what ifs, but we can spend the next couple seconds talking about this anyway. If we would have left on Wednesday, we probably would have been able to have fair winds the entire way, hug the beach, the wind right off the beach. It would have been beautiful. But that didn't happen. The part, in fact, didn't show up until almost noon on Friday. And then we had to get Rick down to the boat and get everything stowed away and get the part on. Rick had to actually fabricate the part to make it work a little, to get it in there, and then we had to kind of sea trial it. Then we're just about out of water, so we had to fill the water tanks up, and by that time it was so late none of the fuel stations were open anymore. But we still had about, I think the last time I was telling you it was like, Rick, what was it?
Quarter?
No, it was 5/8 of a tank, but I think the last time we got fuel, I was looking at in the book, was June 28th. June 28th, and it's the end of October now, so been a long time since we had fuel. So Rick goes, hey, should we get fuel? And I'm like, Rick, we're probably going to have wind the whole way, so don't worry about it, it's fine. Well, we took off at, I think we didn't get out of our channel. We got the sails up at 5:20 at night in the afternoon on Friday, and we had a roaring good sail right up until about midnight. Then when we turned the corner at Montauk, it started getting really nasty, and the wind was right at us, and we really couldn't sail that way, and we didn't feel like, you know, the problem with tacking and doing all this sort of stuff is that I know I'm cruising, and I've said in almost every video that I'm really trying to get off of this whole thing about being on a schedule and that I'm supposed to just go when the wind blows, but that's a luxury I don't have yet. I'm still working on that, but we have to get this boat down, and I have to get back to work on Tuesday, so we're giving ourselves about a, I don't know, 18-24 hour window to make all this work, so I had to go. So we ended up motoring, and we motored for a long time, just about all of Saturday, and then there were times that on
almost all Saturday.
Yeah, and then there were times that we did do some motor sailing, but the motor was running the whole time, right? Yeah. So the poor old Yanmar there was running away, and anyway, now we finally got a good wind. Before for quite a while the wind dropped out, and it was almost at back of us at the same speed. So in other words, if the wind is blowing behind us at 8 knots and we're doing 6 or 7 knots with the engine, if you put up the sails, you're going to be lucky to see 1 knot of apparent wind. So it really didn't make sense to do anything other than wait for the wind, and that was a luxury we couldn't do. So anyway, we got going, and now we're able to shut everything down. We're down to a 1/4 of a tank of fuel, and the 1/4 of a tank of fuel, if the numbers work the way I think they will work, we should have plenty of fuel. But since I've only had the boat since April, I've only filled it up. We've only topped it off a couple times, and like I say, the last time was June 28th. So each time I would top it off, I would go, and if it was at 7/8 of a tank, I logged how many gallons I was able to get in it. When we got down to, you know, I don't think do we get to 9/16? Yeah, or 11/16, I think. 11/16 of a tank, and I logged how many gallons we put in there. The reason why I do that is that you can't just say, well, it's a 160-gallon tank, and the gauge says it's half full, so you have 80 gallons in there. And the reason why is that, although I don't know for sure, I'm pretty sure that the tank follows the contours of the hull to some extent. And so if that were the case, it would take forever to get halfway down in distance, but then when you got to the end, it would speed up very quickly. And that's a surprise we don't really want. And so since this is, now that I'm down to a quarter of a tank, I'm really in an area that I've never been with in this boat before. And it's really good because before I go to Puerto Rico, it's really nice to have a full shot of fresh fuel. A lot of the fuel that's in this boat really came with it from the year before, so it's nice to, and there's been nothing wrong with the fuel, and it's treated and all that, but it's going to be a good feeling. The more fuel we use without running out, the better it will be for when we put fresh fuel in there for the trip to Puerto Rico. And like I say, the farther I get down on the tank, the more I can write what the gauge says versus how many gallons I can put in will really show. And before any of you guys go crazy in the comments, of course, if I have 160 gallons of fuel, I don't think I have 160 gallons of range. Everything I've ever figured out, I've always left at least a 10% reserve, because not a reserve to get you home, a 10% reserve because I'm not confident that you can pull 100% of. It's typical that you can only pull about 80 or 90% of the fuel out of your tank, because where the pickup is, sometimes they lift it up a little bit, so if there's any water, the water gets to the bottom of the tank. Or if the boat, in this case, is heeled over like it is now, those things won't work. So that's where we're at with the fuel. But anyway, if you can see this, Rick has his new tackle box. You say new tackle box.
Thanks, Tim.
Rick,
New tackle box.
Rick, is there a reason why you have a beautiful new tackle box?
Somebody sent my other one down to the bottom of Fisher Island Sound.
Yeah, someone was me. I was trying to we started in the lazarette. And the reason why I tell you this is that I'm hoping somebody out there has done this before, so I don't feel like I'm the only idiot on the planet. So if you're an idiot, please stand up. To get something in the lazarette, I had to pull out his tackle box. His tackle box that he's had, what, since you were in the Navy?
Well, no, not that long, but
for a long time.
Years.
And Rick has been building submarines for 30 years, and so they would send him on contracts out in Hawaii, and he'd go to the Hawaii tackle places and buy these, what were they, special rigs just for the
tuna rigs
that you could only get in Hawaii.
Yeah, somebody made them there. One of the guys at the shipyard, and they were all handmade and painted.
So I have to get in there, but I can't get around there. So I put the tackle box on the seat right where he's sitting now. And of course, right now we got the dinghy up and the windows are down and all that. This is in the summer. There's nothing back there. So I go to put everything back, and I sit right where he is, and I lean back, and his tackle box goes right out the back end. And since it was loaded with about 30 pounds of lead, it went right to the bottom. So I've felt terrible, and Rick has gotten all new gear since then. Anyway, let me kind of give you guys a little view here. I'm going to shut the camera off because I don't want to go out on deck without my life jacket on. So I'm up in the bow, as you probably can see, and the wind is blowing, and I probably should have got a different mic, but anyway, we'll see how this works. So yeah, it's beautiful. One of the things I made, I should have brought up there to show you, but I figure you'll have plenty of times to see it when I'm in the tropics, is right here I've built a starboard, you know, the synthetic wood there. I built a seat so you can sit right here and hopefully dangle your feet while the dolphins play underneath you. But anyway, it's beautiful up here. It's nice that we have some good weather, because like I say, for a while there we were getting beat up pretty hard, Rick and I were. But I think I got a good shape of the sail here, so I'm happy with that. I think I'm learning how to do all this. It looks like I can ease the main a little bit. Maybe I have the main a little too tight. If I ease that out, I might get a better shape. I don't know, we'll figure out. Some of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about was the plan. So I've been trying to figure out how to do this, and I guess I should just tell you what the plan is. So I've been hinting around that we're taking the boat to Puerto Rico, and that really, I should really talk to you and tell you about what that entails. It just doesn't happen that way. There's a whole bunch of things that happen. Getting insurance was a really tough thing for me. It sounds really strange, but I guess in the eyes of an insurance company, because I haven't owned my own boat in the last 10 years, they see me as a new boat owner. So with 8,000 or 9,000 days documented with the Coast Guard at sea, with spending my life on the water as a professional mariner, none of that seemed to matter. And I don't mean that it doesn't matter. I think that the insurance companies are sympathetic to that, but in the end, they're bureaucrats. They need to check off a box and you know, fill this in. And if the experience and the licenses and the endorsements that I hold don't fit in those boxes, they don't go in, and it doesn't mean anything. So I guess, and then there's also the other thing, and that's that after Hurricane Maria, I guess so many insurance companies took such a beating when the entire charter fleets in the Caribbean got wiped out, that almost everyone pulled out of the Caribbean insurance-wise. And so the few people that were there had ridiculous policies. And after searching high and low, and having, I even have friends and families in the industry that were trying to help me. After searching high and low, I found one company that said that they would, or the company I had would allow me to extend the policy down to the Caribbean, because I mean I had them up here, but I had navigational limits from the Canadian border down to Cape May, New Jersey. And they said that they would open up the navigation limits all the way down to Puerto Rico for me. But I would have to pay more, obviously, and I don't know how much more, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was that I had to be with the boat all the time. And I guess that has to do with if something happens to your boat, they're worried that you're not going to, with COVID and everything, you can't even get back to the boat to take care of it. They're worried that if you go to a country that, not Puerto Rico, but if you go to another country in the Caribbean and your boat gets stolen, they don't even have a recourse to go in there and get it out and that sort of stuff. Anyway, the idea of me going back to work every 2 weeks and then flying back to the boat, they weren't going to have that, and I'm not really the type that would do it and, you know, not let them know about it. Kind of, if you're going to spend the money on insurance, you should be honest with them. You should be honest with everybody about anything. Anyway, so that wasn't going to work. So the only other company we found that was willing to talk to us said that we could go down there and I could leave the boat, and I think the policy was something like $12,000 a year, which was pretty steep in my book, and the deductible was like $26,000 for the deductible. But if there was a named storm, it went to $52,000. And I'm like, $52,000 for a deductible? I mean, if I had that kind of money, I don't know if I'd even buy insurance. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, that was obviously something that wasn't going to be done. So let me keep walking here, because I'm terrified you're not going to hear anything but wind. So I'll bring you down here. One hand for me, one hand for the ship. See this right here? This is something I put on over here. I had noticed that my whisker pole had some marks on it up there from where the previous owner, when the whisker pole had come over and made contact over here. So I had a little extra of this. This is a water hose that I was using when I bleached my water lines. I had to buy this hose, and I just slid it and put it over there, and it fit perfectly. So I put one on either side just so that it doesn't mark up the whisker pole anymore. And now what I want to do is I'm thinking about putting two of them on here and on the other side, so that when the sheet lines for the or the jib or the genoa come up, they won't rub on, you know, they'll rub on plastic instead of rubbing on metal. And then if I had some more line, I might even put one up back here as well for letting the boom all the way out. But I don't think that my boom vane will even let me let the boom all the way out that long, so maybe that's not that big an issue. All right, let me see if I can sit here. We had the we're towing one hand line, and Rick, the wonderful fisherman, hasn't caught one thing yet. And I'm thinking that he's not going to be able to catch anything with this one out of the water here, but he said that if we hooked up with a big tuna here, big tuna, we hooked up with anything over here, we would be busy steering and wouldn't be able to haul it in. So we said, you know, let's get the sails up and we'll put this thing in the water when we have more crew. So that's that. But anyway, the good news is I found an agency that really, it's kind of funny, they specialize in commercial insurance, and that's how I was able to find them, because I knew them on the commercial side and through friends and family. And the broker that I dealt with, although he doesn't do sailboats and yachts all the time, he does a little bit of everything, but mostly does a lot of bigger stuff. This guy went over and beyond the Call of Duty, and he pulled everything out and just worked and worked and worked until he finally found a policy for me. And I think he had to go to Lloyd's of London, Lloyd's Direct, to get it. And I think that's where it is. But anyway, they got me a policy, and it has two caveats to it. It's one is that I can't single-hand the boat anymore, regardless of where I am. So for the next 6 to 8 months, that's not an issue. We're going down to Puerto Rico. Obviously, we're going with a crew of 4. Rick and I are sailing it down to Virginia right now, so that's not a big deal. And the whole time in Puerto Rico, I can't see why I'd want to go sailing alone anyway. So that I can live with that. But they do have another big one. And I'm debating on whether or not I should talk about this or not, but I've told you guys everything about my life anyway, so I might as well tell you about this too. Apparently they cover everything, and the price is right, the deductible is right, everything about them is right, and they're you know, obviously Lloyd's is a good company and all that. The only thing they don't do is there's no coverage for named or numbered windstorms. I'm kind of like, well, isn't that why we get insurance? Having said that, I'm going at the time when, meaning I'm going after hurricane season, and I'll come back from the Caribbean before next hurricane season starts. So I think that's going to be all right. Now the question is, when I come back, I'll probably go to somebody, I'll try to find some coverage for wind name storms while I'm up here, just to be on the safe side. You know, I've poured everything into this boat, and I really need to make sure that I'm covered. And so that's something that I'll look into. It's very possible that I might have trouble having the company that's insuring me now pick me back up after I drop them after 6 months. But my broker seems to think that they might be understanding, because I didn't drop them because of a price. I dropped them because they can't offer me the policy that I want, which is one that covers named storms. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. And if that means I can't use them next year, I understand that the insurance market is very fluid. It's not static. It changes from year to year. So who knows? And who knows? Maybe next year I have to do something else with the boat. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, the good news is that we're insured with a good company. And look, if any of you guys are in this, if anybody sees this and is having similar situation where they're going down to the Caribbean and having trouble getting insured, or just want insurance from somebody that really works really hard, I'm going to put my insurance broker's name and contact information in the description, so check that out. And Tim Stanton, if you're out there, thank you so much. You really hooked me up, my brother. Thank you. All right, so getting back to the plan. So I need to get the boat down to Puerto Rico, and I originally thought I was going to sail it from Watch Hill, Rhode Island, head right out to Montauk, and do a rum line 1,800 miles all the way down to Puerto Rico. Then in doing some more research, when I say doing research, reading Jimmy Cornell's book, it's World Cruising Routes, They tell you what time of year to go or how to go and that sort of stuff. He recommends against, he doesn't recommend against that. He just says that there's a better way to do that. And then I also believe that there's strength in numbers. There's 2 different rallies that are leaving, headed down to the islands. They're not headed to Puerto Rico. They're headed down to the British Virgin Islands and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And it doesn't matter. It's the same route until you get there, and then they're just up a little bit further. But both the ARC Caribbean 1500 and the Salty Dog Relay, they both go down in the islands, and they both go down in the beginning of November, and they both leave out of Norfolk or Chesapeake area and do the same route that I want to do. And a lot of people say, oh, are you going to be coming down through the intercoastal? Are you going to be going to the Bahamas on your way? No, I'm not doing any of that. And that's not, that has to do with what these rallies are doing. It has to do with Jimmy Cornell's book. But it also has to do with my own experience. I think I told some of you before that years ago when I worked for another company, I was on a route bringing fly ash from Baltimore all the way to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we went down, of all the trips, only one time did we do it the way that I'm going, and that was much better. But most of the time we'd go down the coast, and we'd do it because of crew change or where we'd have to get fuel or whatever. Go down the coast, get down to the Florida Straits, and then take a left and head all the way through there. And basically we had green water over the boat the whole time, and the wind right in the teeth. I mean, the prevailing winds usually blow up the coast. Then when you turn and you start headed between, you know, when you go by, well, you're going to be coming by Cuba and then Hispaniola, which is, you know, Haiti and the Dominican Republic and then Puerto Rico. All the trade winds are just blowing right at you, and the current is too. And so it was funny, when I was on that route with the tugboats, we'd have to have the boat sealed up. We had green water over the wheelhouse the entire 14 days it would take to get there, towing 12,000 tons of fly ash. Then we'd hand the boat and the barge off to our relief crew, and they'd come back and they'd have the doors open, they'd be catching fish, they were sunbathing, and they just had a beautiful ride because it was all behind them. It had a fair wind on the way back. So anyway, on a sailboat, I don't want to go into the wind. It's very difficult and sloppy. I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying I wouldn't do that. And I think for those reasons, that's why Jimmy Cornell in his book, and that's why the 2 different rallies choose to do the eastern route, where we're going to come out of the Chesapeake and basically head right for Bermuda. And then right before you get to Bermuda, then you turn to the right and go due south right down to, in my case, Puerto Rico. Now, there's a couple things that are going to happen to do that. We keep an eye on the jet stream, which will move the easterlies, the trade winds up and down. See, I should back up and say that if you're not familiar with this, the Earth has different zones in it, obviously, but at the equator, there's very little wind. And then north of the equator and south, but we're just concentrating on the northern hemisphere for this purpose anyway. North of that, you start getting the easterly trade winds, and they blow from east to west, and they're pretty consistent. Pretty, I mean, your money is that those things are going to be blowing all the time. Then you go a little bit further and you get into more what some people would call in the South Pacific, or you might call them the doldrums, but they're known as the horse latitudes. And this is an area in between the easterlies, and up above them is the westerlies that blow from west to east. And they're right about where Bermuda is. So the reason why they call them the horse latitudes was that when the sailing ships would come over and they had horses on board, if those ships got stuck in this area of the 2 zones of the easterlies and the westerlies, they could be stuck in there for weeks at a time. And the biggest consumer of water on the ships were horses. So unfortunately the horses had to go so that the guys would still have water. So they're known as the horse latitudes. So anyway, Jimmy Cornell talks about in his book that you get out towards Bermuda, and when you turn, you might have to motor for 2 or 3 days to get through there to start picking up those easterlies, and then from there on you'll be going like a racehorse all the way right down to Puerto Rico. So that's our plan, but in order to do that, we had to move the boat from Watch Hill, Rhode Island down to Virginia, and I had to find a place to leave it, and everyone says that the people and the facility at Deltaville is great, so we're going to go there and leave the boat there while I go to work, and they'll keep an eye on it for me, and then right the second week of November, me and Rick, Ian, and Runa, the four of us that make up our crew, will all show up and get ready, and when the weather's right, we're going to leave, and hopefully, if everything goes right, nothing ever goes right, but it would be nice when we leave, when we get out of the Chesapeake, the first 48 hours, we're going to have to cross the Gulf Stream, and hopefully we'll have westerlies, or even better, we'd have some of those November northerlies. The problem is going across the Gulf Stream, that's going to make the Gulf Stream that's moving north, and the wind is coming down from the north, that will make it stand up. And so the first 48 hours of the trip should probably be a little sporty, but that's all right. If you're going to get sportiness, you should get it right at the beginning and then have it be beautiful after that. Then what we'll do is, through the Iridium Go, if we can keep an eye on the jet stream, as the jet stream moves up and down, it has the ability to move those easterlies up or down. So if we see that the easterlies are moving up, we might duck out. We won't go as far to Bermuda. We'll be able to duck out and grab those easterlies and go down with motoring less. If that doesn't happen, and the easterlies are further down south, we'll go closer to Bermuda, and then make the turn and motor, and that way, as we motor, we'll have a little, as the easterlies start to fill in, we'll have a little bit of angle on there to get back to where we're going. So that's the plan, and if everything goes right there timing wise, let's see, it was just under 400 miles, I think 384 miles from Watch Hill to Deltaville, and so Rick and I are doing that in about just a little over 2 days, 2.5 days, and then if everything goes right on the other one, it should take us about 2 to 2.5 days to get out towards the turn at Bermuda, and then another 8 to 10 days going south if we get the wind and if everything goes right. So people say, well, how long is it? I'm saying it's 1,500 miles. If we were able to stay exactly on course and do all that, it might be 1,400 miles where we're going, but it's hard. It's not hard. It doesn't make sense to stay right on your track line if the wind, if you can make another knot by moving a little bit off of your track line so you get a better wind angle. So we'll probably end up doing about 1,500 miles. And so my plan is that if as long as we can make over 100 miles a day, excuse me, goodness gracious, as long as we can make over 100 miles a day, we should be really good. And I think if we have good weather, there's times that we can make about, the boat's capable of making 160, 180 miles a day. So we could do that, but that's I don't want to put the cart too far in front of the horse. Anyway, so that's the plan. So upcoming videos, I want to have a video where I'll introduce the crew and tell you a little bit about each of us and what our duties are and how we're going to set up a watch schedule and that sort of thing. I also have been fighting with Iridium Go, and I just had a real breakthrough. The people, I bought it through Predict Wind, and they're a company out of New Zealand, and I was really upset because I spent $1,000 on something that basically wasn't working, and the people that own it, Iridium, don't talk to you. You gotta get service from the person you bought it from, which is a company in New Zealand. Anyway, it turns out I can't say enough about these Kiwis. Were the greatest customer service, and they were so great. Texting, call me on the phone, email, and when we finally figured out that something was wrong with the unit and we had to do a factory reset, and we did a factory reset and everything seems to be working, they called to make sure everything's good and is there anything they can help me with, and just really, really awesome people. So I look forward to sailing around the world, and I really look forward to getting down there because I've heard nothing but awesome things about the Kiwis. And don't worry, I'm stopping to see you Aussies too. I don't know if the Aussies, yeah, I think some of them came over to this channel, but I got a whole bunch of Aussies on the other channel. All right, and so yeah, I'd love to show you how the whole Iridium thing works, and show you how we're planning the weather and all that. So that'll probably be another video too. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and like, subscribe, write me a comment. All those good things help out, and maybe we can get this channel off the ground like you did with the other one. Thank you guys so much. Be safe out there, and I'll see you on the one.